The UPS guy brought me a package today. Let's take a look at it. The box I've got here in front of me showed up today. I had ordered it, I think 3 days ago from Amazon, and it's called the Oneida Dust Deputy, and it's a cyclonic separator for your shop vac. Now I use cyclones on my shop dust extractor, and I also have a small one on my one of my scroll saws. And I really like them because they make emptying and keeping the filters clean longer. It's just a much easier job. Used to be when I had to take the bag off of my shop dust collector, this shop would just be a total mess. Same thing with this little one over here. The cyclone on it has a small jar on it, and you just take it off and empty it out. It makes it a snap. But my shop vac, I didn't have one on, so I ordered this, and I'm going to show you the upgrade I did tonight. Before we take a look at the Dust Deputy back here that I put together today, I want to show you my old shop vac just to give you an idea of why this thing is worthwhile. If you've ever used a shop vac in your woodworking shop, you know that the filters tend to plug up really quick from the sawdust, just like this one right here. It's pretty well plugged. And once they plug up, you lose the vacuum out of your dust collector, and it just doesn't work as well. So what the Dust Deputy does, and all cyclones, what they do is they separate out the dust and put it in a different container before it ever reaches the filter. So I'll show you that. Before I go any farther, I want to show you how Oneida intends for this Dust Deputy to be installed. What you get with the kit is you get a couple of buckets, you get the cyclone separator, and you get a hose, and you get a hardware kit. They also give you this foam pad that goes between your shop vac, which is not included with the kit, and the buckets that you use. And I'll show you this in better detail when we get over to mine. But they intend for you to install the Dust Deputy beside the shop vac, and that doesn't work very well. It doesn't move around the shop very well. It takes up too much room, and everything you read online, everybody says this is just not the ideal situation. So I have designed a little cart to put it on. Nothing fancy, actually pretty cheap little cart, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But first, let's take a look at how the Oneida Dust Deputy actually works and what it does. Here's how I have my Dust Deputy installed. You can see I've got it on this little cart that has casters on it. And again, the Dust Deputy has two buckets. The first bucket is just to mount to the stand, and the second bucket sits down in the first one so you can easily remove it to pour out the dust as it collects. This is the actual cyclone separator right here, and what happens is this hose goes to the vacuum down here that's installed inside this cart, and this is your hose that goes to where you're actually vacuuming up the dust. So the dust comes in through your hose, it goes into this cyclone, and it actually starts spinning, and the heavy dust falls down into the bucket instead of going up against gravity into the hose down into the shop vac. So it gets most of the dust, about 95% of the dust will go into this bucket instead of going into the shop vac filter. So let's do a quick demonstration of that, and you'll be able to see that. I've removed the second bucket from the first bucket just to show you that it's empty. And the way this works is this bucket goes down into here, and then you take the separator, bring it over, snap it onto the bucket, nice tight fit. And then you take the hose that comes from the suction of your vacuum cleaner, and you put it on the top connector. And now I'm going to zoom in here, let you watch this cyclone separator while I vacuum the dust out of the old shop vac. I've got a light behind the separator, so hopefully you can see this a little better. I'm going to turn on the shop vac. It's going to get a little noisy, and then I'm going to vacuum up some of this dust. So let's take a look. Hopefully you can see that cyclone action going on there. And what you can see the dust coming in from the top using the suction from above. It started the rotation of the dust and the heavier particles fell down into the bucket. Let's take the lid off and see how much of it we picked up. Took the top off, removed the second bucket, and you can see almost all the dust that I picked up ended up in this bucket, which is now easy to just pour into a trash bag. I'm not going to remove the shop vac and show you the filter, but trust me, it's staying much cleaner than it would if all this dust was making it to that filter. I think you can see that the performance of the Dust Deputy from Oneida is really quite good. It does a great job of separating out those larger dust particles into the bucket. Much easier to empty the contents, and really saves on filters. Those filters are not cheap, and again, when they get dirty, they don't do a very good job of sucking up the dust anymore. So performance-wise on the Dust Deputy, I'm really impressed. Now let's take a few minutes to look at what I've done with the cart. Again, the Dust Deputy is pretty much intended to be installed next to the shop vac, and then the shop vac of course has wheels on it. The bottom of the first bucket has wheels on it, and they're supposed to roll around together. And that does not seem to perform very well from all the videos I've watched on YouTube and the people I've talked to. So a lot of people build these carts, and that's what I did also. Now, I didn't get very fancy with mine. I just used an inexpensive plywood, and I used pocket hole screws to put it together. No glue or anything, just straight pocket holes. And the only addition I added was I put this little cleat on here to hold the sweeper. So what I did was I just built two half boxes, the top and the bottom, and I used some beams that are just two pine boards put together as an L, and they're screwed into the bottom. The bottom has casters on it. I added another block there to install the casters on it, and the top is actually free floating. And the reason I left that free floating is that way I can take the top off and get the shop vac out if I need it. I just take the top off, lift the shop vac straight up out of the cart, and I'm ready to use it for other purposes. So very simple to make. No plans for this cart because it's too simple for that, and you really need to design it around your particular shop vac. I kept it as small as I possibly could, so the shop vac just sits in there pretty tight. Again, very simple, so there's no really need for plans. I'll zoom in here a little bit and give you a little closer look. And you can see there that at the bottom we've got some casters, and they're mounted on these extra blocks just so they would stay on there a little tighter. The bottom box is just like a drawer or a box with no top. The L beams that you see right here, they're just two boards that I use pocket holes to hold them together. Again, no glue. You can see that the shop vac just barely fits in there, which is what I wanted. The wheelbase is wide enough that it's not tippy at all. It sits there very, very well. The first bucket is actually bolted to this top piece of plywood, so it stays in place without any problem at all. That way when you pull the other bucket up out of it, you don't have any problem there. And then of course you can see the Dust Deputy. Like I said at the start of this video, have always been a fan of these cyclones because they really do add quite a bit of convenience and cleanliness to your shop. I'm in a two-car garage, so my dust problems are pretty big. I don't want the dust getting into the house, and so I typically use the dust collector pretty often. I don't use it as much on the scroll saw because it's just too noisy for me, but table saw, the router table, the planer, the bandsaw, I use dust collection on all that, and I use my shop dust collector for most of that, but of course all the cleanup happens right here. So I'm really pleased with this. I'm pleased with the performance, and I'm pleased with the little card I put together. So anyway, just wanted to give you a quick update of what I did today and show you this card. I'm Steve Good. Thanks for being here with me at the Scroll Saw Workshop. We'll catch you next time. I ordered my Oneida Dust Deputy from Amazon. I have a Prime account, so it showed up in about 3 days. I have the free 2-day shipping, but it didn't quite make it there that quick. When you open the box, everything comes packaged inside the 2 buckets, and quite well packaged. Everything showed up just fine. When you separate everything out, you can see you've got the separator, a hose, 2 buckets, the top lid, and a hardware kit. I went ahead and purchased a new shop vac for this project just because the hoses that came with the Cyclone did not fit my old shop vac. Here I have a couple sheets of 24-inch by 24-inch plywood that I picked up from Home Depot and some pine boards, and this is what I'm going to make the cart out of. I placed the new shop vac on top of one of the sheets of plywood just to get the dimensions of what I wanted the base and the top to be. I used my pocket hole jig to put everything together. I didn't use any glue, just the pocket holes are strong enough to hold everything together. And here you can see I'm building the bottom base of the cart, and again just 3 pocket holes in each board, and I'm just building a little box. After I get the bottom base box built, I went ahead and set the shop vac in it just to make sure everything was fitting the way I planned. Went ahead and built the second box, which will be the top. Now, of course, it'll be turned upside down from the first box. Here I'm building the L brackets for the 4 posts that hold the top and the bottom together. I ended up having to cut this a little bit smaller so it would fit well. And there you can see I've got the 4 posts set inside the bottom box, and the shop vac fits nice and snug in there. I used the pocket hole screws to screw the post into the bottom base. Flipped it over, added casters on all 4 corners. I used swivel casters for all corners just so it would move in all directions easily. Here I've got the top slid onto the post, and again the top is not screwed on or mounted to the bottom in any way. It's free floating so you can get the shop vac out. Here you can see I bolted the first bucket to the piece of plywood on the top, and I'm getting ready to set the second bucket that has the separator on top of it into the first bucket, and this just shows you that how the 2 buckets go together. And here I've attached all the hoses. I did have to use some extra hoses other than what came with it because everything didn't fit well. So that's the build.